Welcome to another show. Today, we're going to talk about actors Alfred Hitchcock had contentious relationships with.
He was kind of trying to control who I saw, what all of those kinds of things. So that became a very, very difficult time for me.
Alfred Hitchcock, the master of suspense, was renowned not only for his visionary filmmaking, but also for his complex relationships with some of the actors that he worked with. Here are a few notable instances. Number 2, Tippi Hedren. One of the most famous contentious relationships Hitchcock had was with Tippi Hedren, star of the films The Birds and Marnie. Hitchcock discovered Hedren and cast her in a leading role, but their professional relationship soon became sour. Hedren later accused Hitchcock of obsessive and controlling behavior, which affected her career and personal life. Their strained relationship is one of the most documented examples of Hitchcock's difficult interactions with his actors.
And they had me on the floor with little bits of elastic coming through the holes in the dress that the wardrobe lady had put in there, with ravens and seagulls just sort of loosely tied so they'd stay on my body. One of them was sitting here, and he decided to sit here, and just a little scratch in my eye, and I said, "That's enough." And I threw them all off and sat in the middle of the set crying. It took 5 days to do that scene. I started on a Monday morning, and it was really, I don't know whether Hitchcock did this deliberately, but we always planned on using mechanical birds. And the morning that we started this, I was in my dressing room on the set, and the assistant director came in, and we were good pals, and he couldn't look at me. And he was looking at the floor and at the walls and the ceiling. I said, "What's the matter with you, Jim?" And he said, we can't use the mechanical birds, they don't work," and he split. I went, "What?" Well, it turns out that they had 5 prop men with great huge cartons of ravens and seagulls and all those good guys, and which they alternately hurled at me for 5 days. And Hitch was not only my director, he was my drama coach. I was a very lucky lady. I think he became obsessed with this character named Tippi Hedren. He felt that he had created Tippi Hedren. He would not take his eyes off of me. He may be talking to somebody over here, but he was watching me all the time. And it became very difficult. Mrs. Hitchcock came to me on a number of times and said, "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry you have to go through this, or that you're going through this." So she, it was apparent to her. During the filming of Marnie, everything sort of went fine until probably the last quarter of the shoot. It was a 5-month shoot, and it eventually got to the point where I couldn't stand the control, or the trying to control, and I resented it so highly that I finally told him that I couldn't bear it anymore. Demands were being put onto me that I couldn't acquiesce to, and I said, "I need to get out." And he told me that I really couldn't, that I had my parents to worry about, my daughter. I said, "It doesn't matter. I can't live this way." And he literally said, "I'll ruin your career." He kept me under contract. He paid me my little salary every week for a couple of years. And by that time, all of the people who did want to use me in films, because after Marnie, I was hot, and was just told I wasn't available. There was never a question of us working together again. It was just a very definite cutoff. And it was by me.
At number 2 is Kim Novak.
That's not it. Nothing like it.
But you said gray, sir.
Now, look, I just want an ordinary, simple gray suit.
Who starred in Hitchcock's classic Vertigo. She also experienced a challenging working relationship with the director. Hitchcock was known for his exacting standards and high expectations, which often led to tensions on the set.
I like that one, Scotty.
No, it's not right.
The gentleman seems to know what he wants. All right, we'll find it.
Well, it was a lot of stress at the time because the star system was such that you had to work under tremendous pressure. There was so much emphasis put on the look, on the image. They never really cared about what you were inside. It was as long as you projected the right image, and that usually meant how much lipstick, how you wore your hair, things like that. And there was such a need to always want to express yourself and be yourself, but it wasn't the time.
Novak felt that Hitchcock was overly critical and demanding, creating an atmosphere that was difficult for her to work in.
It's the difficulty of stars. They want to be writers today, you know. They want to be producers. They won't stick like any decent cobbler would to their lust, you know. And I think that's one of the big problems when an actor wants to rewrite and arrives on the set with his scene already. I had that occasion happen to me once. An actor came with a scene completely rewritten. At 9 a.m. I said, what about your co-star in the picture? She doesn't know a word of this. Hasn't been able to learn a word. Don't you have any regard for her? Not at all. It was just that he wanted to change the scene because it wasn't permitted, naturally.
He was a strange man, but there was a lot to say for him, really. When you think about it, when I look back, I mean, he put the fear of God in me. It was to walk in his office and to see, and he was so, well, he was like a big gorilla, like King Kong, really. But on the other hand, he knew his business. He knew what he wanted. He knew the kind of films that should be made, and he knew how to get his results. And mostly by putting fear into people, really. I mean, he did like to work with fear as his main hold over everybody. They got very upset when I would smear off the lipstick and redo my hair. But not only that, yes, they would mind if you would try to discuss how you wanted to play the role. I mean, after all, it was not just the fact that they were the boss, but at that time there was less rights for women as well, in the sense that, I mean, it was enough trying to say what you want, yet alone being a woman saying it. I would always want to discuss it and try to bring in my own self, if I could, to a part. I felt I had something to offer in my own way.
Up next is James Stewart.
As you know, Alfred Hitchcock has an uncanny knack for coming up with the unusual in entertainment. Well, the man who knew too much can certainly be put in that category.
My friend Alfred Hitchcock is supposed to have said once that actors are cattle. Now Hitch denies that. What he said is that actors should be treated like cattle. You sort of get a feeling that Hitch's life is as well planned as his movies. Everything's sort of laid out in advance. When you work with Hitch, you don't try doing a scene two ways. You do it one way. His.
She's too perfect. Well, when am I going to see you again?
Not for a long time.
Despite their successful collaborations on several films, including Rear Window and Vertigo, Hitchcock's relationship with James Stewart had its own set of challenges. Hitchcock reportedly felt that Stewart was miscast in Vertigo, and their relationship was strained as a result. However, their mutual respect for each other's talents ultimately allowed them to continue working together.
He came into a picture better prepared than almost anybody I've ever seen. He would work for 5-6 months on the script with the writer and become absolutely glib and would know every scene, every word of the script. Then he would sort of forget about it. And he was a visual man. He would set up the scene and the camera. I never saw him look through the camera. He would sort of do that, and the cameraman would stand there, and that was what he saw through there was the next scene. Then he'd go over and sit down and wait for them to light the scene and everything. Then he'd usually just call the actors in and say, well, all right, there it is, there's your scene. You know what we go around and see how it feels moving around on the scene to play it, which is what we did, which was his method of directing, which was certainly different than a lot of people's. but it worked. You just look at yourself. And this is a very bad idea, but you can't help yourself. You just look at yourself and you say, why did I do that? Well, there was another take much better than that. Say, why didn't they cut away from me when I did that? So at the end of the picture, you're sort of a wreck.
The next actor on the list is Montgomery Clift.
You see, with a murder, one has to jump from one detail to another. Forgive me, perhaps I jumped too suddenly for you.
Well, it seems maybe I don't follow as fast as you jump. I have a methodical mind. I do have to take things one by one.
Montgomery Clift starred in Hitchcock's I Confess and was known for his method acting approach, which clashed with Hitchcock's more structured and controlled directing style. Their differing approaches to filmmaking led to tension on set, with Hitchcock reportedly finding Clift's methods frustrating and challenging to manage.
The executives try to sort of hide their tracks by blaming it on the poor fellow who has to act it. A set isn't built in time, they blame the actor. The script is not ready, you get a white version, a blue version, a pink version, and a yellow version. And that night you get the final version, and that's what you have to study because you can't memorize the first version. So if the actor doesn't know the lines that morning, he's to blame. Even if he stays up till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning and has to get up at 5:30. When you do really give of yourself, it's as though it's not even like winding up on the cutting room floor, because I'm not the kind of character, considering the kind of roles I play. I'm very hard to reach when I'm shooting a picture. When I'm not shooting a picture, I'm not hard to reach at all.
The next actor on the list is Paul Newman.
I'm not a scientist, I'm a teacher.
You're a scientist, and you're supposed to respect a natural order in all things. Breakfast comes before lunch. Ow!
I care about all of the peripheral things that go into acting. I care about the rehearsals. I care about tearing down the script. I care about making terribly cerebral judgments about the directions in which a character may go. The actual performing, the actual getting up and having someone shout action and put a placard in front of you and then doing your job is very, very dull. I think the only obligation that I have to an audience is to do the best that I possibly can, to prepare myself, to not cheat them on the screen.
Hitchcock's collaboration with Paul Newman in Torn Curtain was another instance of a strained working relationship. Newman, also a method actor, often questioned Hitchcock's directing techniques and decisions, leading to a clash of egos. Hitchcock found Newman's approach to be difficult to work with, and their relationship remained tense throughout the production. In conclusion, while Alfred Hitchcock was a genius filmmaker, his demanding nature and specific vision often led to challenging relationships with some of the actors he worked with. These contentious dynamics, however, did not overshadow the enduring legacy of the remarkable films they created together. And that was our show for today. What do you think? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. And while you're at it, I'd be honored if you subscribe to my channel, click the bell to stay informed, share this video, as that will help me grow, and check out my Carl Vincent Vampire Hunter franchise, also in the comments section. Until next time, this is Kevin Gibbons saying, live long and prosper, may the force be with you, and keep reaching for the stars.